Alright, so today's tropical update. Friday, as of 2 p.m. now, well, 3 p.m., we have now Hurricane Humberto rapidly strengthening in the central Atlantic, expected to become a major by tomorrow morning, if not tonight. Can see the track here. generally, generally curving east of the United States, even if it takes the westerly side of this cone, or if it takes the easterly side, Bermuda could get in it on some impacts. Bermuda, located right in there. All right, let's go back to this graphic. We have 94L at 90% chance in 2 days, 90% chance in 7 days. Pretty much a good probability that this is going to develop somewhere in this region, I would say. Tomorrow into Sunday. And then where the uncertainty is generally lies in this area. It'll be here around Monday afternoon, Tuesday. I'll show you what I mean just in a moment here. So most ensembles keep it off the east coast of Florida, generally paralleling the coast till it gets into this area, and then things get quite murky with this forecast. I mean, we're talking about the possibility of a landfall Monday or Tuesday. Show you the satellite imagery as of this afternoon. The GOES 19. You can see where Humberto is in the central Atlantic. Definitely developing that eye. Central dense overcast. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Okay. You can see some cirrus emanating out from the center of circulation, showing that this has very good ventilation, very good diffluence aloft, very healthy for significant intensification of a tropical cyclone. This intensification should continue for at least the next 3 to 4 days before getting up in this area, where it could likely encounter some westerly shear out of this direction, and depending on its position in this area, if it's like over here, it could influence 94L, what will be a melta. If not tonight, by tomorrow morning. That seems like the most likely outcome at this point. All right, so looking at frontal features, we have low pressure spinning right in here in North Georgia, and you have a cold front moving pretty slowly across the panhandle of Florida in the southeast. And we also have a stationary front situated in here somewhere. This is helping to induce some very heavy rain in the mountainous areas of North Carolina and Tennessee today, and this will continue until tomorrow. And this will also be the main thing that keeps them out east of Florida. This will act as a shield. We could see this on the observational map on aviationweather.gov. See our front frontal boundary here. You see two lows actually, one over Georgia, one over Alabama, and then Florida. Nice high pressure, providing for mostly sunny day today, maybe some passing clouds, but overall a nice sunny day. Rain chances are pretty low until we get into tomorrow, when this cold front will probably be in this area, this line here. And this Imelda will probably be up in here when that happens, or probably more south of that, but you get the general idea. This will keep Imelda moving north generally, and then maybe once this low gets up in here, we'll flow around these low pressure systems, go like this. You could help either pull this in to the coastline, or if Humberto over here was close enough, like say in here somewhere on the westerly side of the cone, then it could influence Imelda, make it stall out in this general area, and then maybe slingshot it out to sea, like so. But there's a lot of outcomes on the table right now, and I would say that um, a better line than that. I would say Florida is a direct hit, like this or like this. Pretty unlikely at this point. I don't see Florida getting a direct hit. It could get close enough though to bring some impacts to this region of the coastline. Some squally conditions, tropical storm, force wind gusts. That's about it. Definitely some rough seas, which you'll have onshore flow as this parallels the coastline like this. All right, looking at 850 millibar vorticity. 850 millibars, that is at the 5,000 foot level, just above ground, really. It's the lowest level of the atmosphere. Like to look at for tropical storm or tropical cyclone development. We can see a nice signature with 94L. Not really concentrated just yet, kind of still elongated due to it being over this mountainous area. Eastern Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Haiti. We could see where Humberto is, a nice ball of vorticity sitting out in the central Atlantic. Shouldn't be a bother to anyone, and will be rather strong. Likely going in that sort of direction and then probably getting picked up by the jet and out to sea. Do not see this impacting this region at all. It's just not possible with this upper level low feature and with what will be Imelda up in this region. Looking at some forecast models, we'll start with the GFS, of course, the American model. Go. This is the 12Z run today, valid for 8 o'clock this morning. See, as we take this out in time, see what happens with our two features. Humberto starts to move generally west-northwest. That's a terrible arrow. Generally north-northwest, or generally west-northwest until it feels this weakness in the high pressure right in here. And that's where it'll begin to turn. See Imelda starting to develop. This is valid for tomorrow morning around 8 a.m. Could see it cruising through the Bahamas, generally heading in this direction. But obviously the high pressure is going to retract eventually, and this should turn more north to north-northwest, like so. And this could get a little too close for comfort to the eastern Florida coastline, but I just don't see a landfall at this point. And we'll take this out a little further. Let's see if it'll work. Okay. All right. Take this out further in time. I'm gonna have to refresh this actually. So at about Sunday morning, we could have a decent tropical storm in the northern Bahamas, quite possibly a hurricane. And then this starts to kind of pivot around this low pressure that's situated somewhere in here. And the flow is going somewhat like this around this low pressure system, kind of yanking this back towards the coastline. Low pressure would be about here, roughly. And this low pressure system is going to be weakening. So that's interesting to note and to keep in mind. We'll play this out further. You can see what happens eventually. It brings a pretty formidable hurricane into South Carolina, the central South Carolina coastline at that. See 978 millibars. That probably represents high-end Cat 1, low-end Cat 2 on the model. This could be stronger, this could be weaker. You can see what Humberto is doing, generally heading in this direction. And then Imelda is a little too far away to feel the influence just yet, but we take this out a little bit further, and Humberto starts to have an influence on what Imelda does in the future. And we can see that with this model. Kind of stalls out over South Carolina. This could be a major flood threat for this region of the country, especially in the mountains of North Carolina, eastern to central Georgia, all of South Carolina pretty much. This is going to have a pretty expansive moisture field. Then we go to the European model. You can see same thing, a little bit further south and west than the GFS. Actually makes landfall on the Georgia-South Carolina border. And then brings it inland, very slow moving. That's one thing I could see from these models, is that this will be very slow moving. So this could be a Helene 2.0 situation where we have massive flooding concerns. You can see on the Canadian, Humberto gets a lot closer to Imelda, yanks it east, and then Imelda feels the influence of a high pressure system and gets pulled back west into North Carolina. That's a possible scenario. Don't see that happening though. See the UK Mint, a decently reliable model. See our cold front kind of gets a little broken up here. You can see the low pressure system weakening over the southeast. And you can see Imelda creeping up the coastline and then gets yanked east by the influence of Humberto. That's what the Fujiwara effect is. Looking at the hurricane specific models, we could see the H-Wharf. Actually, let's go to the parent, H-Wharf parent. Get a wider view of this. Let's go, we'll go 200 millibar wind. So you can see with Humberto, starting to get some maybe northerly shear on the western edge of the circulation. And then you can see with Imelda, has some pretty good ventilation on the north side. So this could aid in helping it intensify. Quite possibly quickly, but that remains to be the question. Let me take this out further. No, I don't want that. You can see what happens with the Imelda. Starts to intensify. Ah, shoot. Have a ton of diffluence aloft. This is going to aid in helping this ventilate. You can see where Humberto is kind of still hanging out down here. Not really doing much. Let's go the newer hurricane models. Let's see what happens here. I don't know why it does that. Hold on. That's weird. Okay, let's go 10-meter wind. Has a little bit of a more stronger of a hurricane on this iteration of the model. Probably around a Cat 2, strong Cat 1. Actually gets a lot closer to the Florida coastline. That's probably a good 90 to 100 miles away, if I had to guess. And it looks like it kind of stalls out. Again, flash flooding, most likely the concern with that. Um, H, the new hurricane model, the second one. This is the B model. We just looked at the A model. See, a little bit further off the Florida coast, and also a little bit stronger. Definitely, probably a Cat 2 into Georgia. Stalls out right over the coastline. That's big time rain totals, all in this region. That could be very problematic if this happens. And there goes Humberto, generally moving in that direction. Um, yeah, and yeah, that's pretty much all I have for today. Just keeping our